another episode of the Bridging Impact Podcast, the podcast that is passing wisdom to the next generation of athletes, coaches, and parents to transform leaders on and off the court. So in today's episode, I am interviewing Cullen Donovan. Cullen Donovan works for Cross Court and also has a ton of experience playing and coaching basketball abroad and overseas, and that is what a predominant majority of our conversation is on today. It's all about, the cultures, the opportunities, the growth that happens when the game of basketball can take us to different countries and different connections, and just increasing that access for everyone to be able to enjoy the game of basketball. It's a really fun conversation, and I'm really excited to present it to you all. So, hello and welcome to the Bridging Impact Podcast. Cullen, we had a little bit of technical difficulties getting on here, but I'm excited to have our conversation today talking about how basketball has really given you so many opportunities to grow and exposure to, different avenues and cultures in life. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Justin. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's dive right in. Obviously, we have connected. So for those that are listening, we connected through Cross Court, which is a gym that I play basketball at. It's a startup here in Los Angeles for adult pickup, right? And so you moved recently to Los Angeles about 6 months ago. Before we talk about your move, and coming here to Los Angeles, what was playing basketball like for you growing up, and where are you from?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Connecticut. I spent my elementary, middle school, high school years all playing basketball and playing multiple sports growing up. And I played high school basketball at Weathersfield, and I played travel basketball with Connecticut Premier growing up. And I just fell in love with the game and wanted to continue to grow and learn. So it was something that I put hours and hours into. And after high school, I got the opportunity to go to play in college at Riviera University, Division III in New Hampshire. Played 4 years there. I was a 2-year captain there. And I was like, hey, my journey still continues with the sport. And I took some time to go live in Ireland for 3 different years. And I played as a player coach there, coaching in the youth academies and then playing for the National League clubs there. I also spent time in Thailand, New Zealand, where I was coaching for basketball academies out there. And I had a few tryouts with a couple pro teams in those countries as well. And then I found my way back to Ireland, and then back to the U.S. once the pandemic hit, trying to figure out new avenues for growth. And then I made the move about just over 8 months ago here to LA. So it's been a good journey, but I'm excited to see what happens next.
Yep. So you got the opportunity to play and coach abroad, which is really cool, just for the game of basketball. Can you talk about, I know off air, we've talked before about your experiences with traveling when you were younger, and those traveling experiences exposed you to the idea that, hey, you know what, maybe the NBA is not for me, but playing basketball overseas is a possibility.
Yeah, so growing up, I was blessed. My godfather took me to different trips to the Caribbean, to South America, and just all over the U.S. I was blessed to have that growing up, and it provided a greater experience for me to want to go ahead and see different places around the U.S. and around the world. So when that opportunity came, when I got older, I was like, I'm going for it. I mean, when I was in middle school, some of my buddies, I remember sitting at Tim Hortons right across from our middle school, and we were just finished our middle school travel practice, and we were just chopping it up, just dreaming. I mean, what every 8th grader does at that time of after you're playing basketball. And I was like, hey, I never really set a goal for myself to end up playing in the NBA or playing Division I. I was just like, I want to travel playing basketball and it's wild that now that I get older, as I remember those conversations with those exact people, right? And it's crazy how those small experiences or those interactions can make a huge difference in your life. And I just continued to find ways to utilize basketball as a vehicle for me to go see the world, meet people, connect with one another through a sport that I love. So I think and in college, I had people that had shared a similar vision and challenged me for my growth. And I just continued to meet people, connect with people, and share what my vision was. And I just continued to find avenues to explore that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think one of the things that comes up is, I know for me, travel has been really impactful for how my growth and development. But can you talk about how it has impacted you, and just exposure to different cultures has helped, shape and form you as a person?
Yeah, I mean, I think that initial, like, I remember when I was younger, I was a little nervous to get on flights or something like that. I mean, the nerves always kick in when you're out of your comfort zone or you're trying something new. I think that's natural. That happens to everyone, I think. But that first journey, like going away to college, right? You get a little nerves and anxious, but you're also a little bit excited because the unknown is a scary place, but it's something that people should go ahead and explore. And when I had my first year to Ireland, my cousin, my aunt, my uncle, my mom, my yeah, they were all at the airport like, "Are you really doing this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going for it." So I mean, it's just like, I think that those initial fears will tap in, but I think it was I had special memories, special moments, and I think it was definitely something I'm glad I explored into, because now I'm in another country, or in meeting and connecting with people that might not speak the same language as me, or might not have similar culture, similar belief systems, or similar culture viewpoints and all that stuff. But you have to, like, one recommendation I had to some people that were traveling was get out of your hotel room, or get out of your room and go meet people from go to the bar, grab a pint, or go to a shopping center, go connect with people, ask questions, like go find local things to do. And that's all things I did when I was living abroad, is I just had the ability to meet people and hear their stories. And I had great host families. And so I was blessed with that. So, I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world, brother.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love that, because I think one thing that I know about you is, like, you definitely, like, one of your values as a person is growth, right? And you're kind of talking about, when you pursue these experiences, like going to Ireland or wherever you end up going, like, it's really easy to be incredibly uncomfortable and want to just stay in your hotel room and FaceTime, your friends and family back home. But you're kind of leaning into kind of that discomfort and wanting to just connect with people from different cultures and listen to those different stories. And I'm curious, like, how that has shaped and influenced you as a person and what you want to do today.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a much more well-rounded person. I think in college I got a ability to be a leader and stuff like that, for in the professional side of things, and in um, the basketball world, and I've always had that from a young age. I think taking upon leadership roles, or just trying to bring people together, I think that's something that I've always held my hat on. And I think when you're in a situation that's uncomfortable, you can always rely on some of those moments, or those I think experiences that you had, and go ahead and have that ability to put yourself out there, and take a little bit of chances to have a conversation with someone. And that's what leaders do. They end up taking those opportunities to connect with others and grow. And I just remember my first time in Thailand, I got off a flight, and then I ended up going to a basketball academy, and I met three coaches right there, and two of them were Thai, and they were Thai and European. And we just kicked it off. And I was like, those are lifelong friends that you can connect with and grow with. And I think that mindset, and a lot of the development that I've had to grow into, you have to be able to be taught these things. So I think just being able to be open, and keeping that perspective to be aware of that there's bigger things than you in this world.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think one of the things, as I hear you talking, you're using the word leadership quite a bit. And I think that's something that's really important to bridging impact as well, is, the ability to connect with others, right? And that's something we talk about quite a bit offline as well. And so with that connection piece, I think leadership, in different cultures probably looks, sounds, and feels differently. And I'm just curious how you kind of learn from, what it was leadership different. Did it look different in Ireland and Thailand or New Zealand, or are there common threads that kind of weave in, between every culture?
Yeah, I think it's all relative. Leadership is there's all around, like people from all over the world. Like there's leaders and great people and amazing individuals that come together to bring things to fruition, right? I mean, leadership is a trait. I mean, people can be taught some things, but then it takes special people to be able to want to take on those roles, right? So I think it's everywhere I've been at, I've met some special people and special kids who want to take on those roles as athletes and as young leaders in communities. And you see it, everything here in the U.S. is viewed upon differently from outsiders' perspective as well, right? So I think having that ability to see and learn from people that have a totally different perspective on life than you do is crucial to your own growth in life and becoming a better person, because you realize as leaders that not everybody can be taught the same thing or takes in one form of leadership the same way, right? So I think that's something that you learn from being around others that are still trying to develop in their lives. So I think that's something I've been able to, connect with people in that regard.
That's a really good point. I think it's interesting too. And I would love for you to share. Do you have any stories off the top of your head about how, maybe it was a conversation or an experience that kind of just exposed you to a different viewpoint and you're like, oh, okay, I see the world a little bit differently now?
I think the blessings that we have here in America in comparison to other parts of the world, I think when it comes to our facilities, the coaches we have, I think the amount of funding that can be done for different programs, I think even the passion and care for people is definitely a blessing here too. But I think in other parts, like they share that same love and desire um, for different sports and people and humanity, right? I think it's just like, yeah, when I was traveling in Thailand or in New Zealand, right, you get the opportunity to I would just take a tram ride packed up with like hundreds of people in a rail and sorry, not a tram, but what is it? I forgot what it's the T, but it's similar like the T or something like that. And you just pack it up and then drive like 40 minutes to a local school and international school, and then you show up and there's 40 kids. You have one basketball, and you're just like, all right, hey, let's make this work. And I remember my first time in Ireland, the first time I went to an elementary school to do like a PE class, and I had like 30 something kids, size 8 foot hoops and 4 basketballs. And I'm just like, all right, so what are we going to do? And I think like just having the curriculum based stuff and the access to different teachings is a blessing here. I mean, because we're exposed to so much being here in the US, and I think that's just something that I've held my hat on, is that, hey, like those are great experiences, but we're blessed to have what we have here.
Absolutely. So do you think that those experiences kind of helped give you a perspective of like having that gratitude towards, like the resources, like you're talking about, the facilities, and just like really like access to basketballs, right? Because like if thinking about that story in Thailand, one basketball for 40 players and one hoop, like I can only imagine how challenging that was to try and engage all of them. And, right, like that's trying to get all of them to take one shot that might take 10 minutes, right? And so, those are some of the perspectives that I think sometimes get lost, especially as players. Like from when I remember when I was a player, I was at Basketball Jones camp, and I still remember the story that someone was telling me, I don't know, I don't remember what country. I think it might have been Iceland or something like that. Like they were just playing outside, and it was like basically like a rubber ball that they were throwing into like a circle with no net. And I just remember the person telling the story, the coach telling the story was just like, it doesn't matter what basketball you play with, right? Like it just matters that you have a basketball. Like sometimes I think as here in America, we're like, oh, it's not an Evo, it's not a Wilson, it's
Yeah.
not this ball I don't want to play. It's not a men's ball I don't want to play. But in other countries, it's like they have a basketball, like let's rock, let's just play.
Yeah, and I think like, cause here we go to like Dick's Sporting Goods, or we can go to like a few other sporting stores and stuff like that, and you'll have all different access to all
Right.
different sports equipment and stuff like that, right? In certain countries, basketball isn't their main sport, right? When I was in Ireland, they had rugby, soccer, Gaelic, like Gaelic football. Those are their main sports, right? To even find, there was only one. When I was in Sligo, had only one like place that had basketballs. Everything else you had to like buy online or something like that, like.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We could go to a local store here and then be able to, I want some Kobe's, or sorry, or I want some new Kyries, right? And you have access to that. But like, I mean, it's with the internet definitely helps with all that stuff. But it's like, I mean, it's wild. Like, hey, we do have access to different things, and it's great to have that. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And would you say those experiences helped you want to give and create more access for opportunities for having, basketballs and shoes and really just opportunities to play the game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like those are still great communities and all that stuff. So they did it. It's just, I think with the basketball side, I think just wasn't so prominent in those areas. So I
Right.
think that's like, but they still love the game and stuff like that. So, but there are certain communities here and all around the world that do need the support, do need the access to different possibilities through the game of basketball, and also with having basketballs, access to quality hoops, quality games to be played, like quality reps, quality facilities, like. And I think that goes hand in hand with being able to put people in the right situations to be able to have those um, access to that stuff. So yeah, I
Absolutely.
definitely think it definitely is opened up my perspective on seeing those things. So
No, that's really cool. And with that, I'm curious, Bridging Impact's all about, it sounds like a lot of, and we've talked off air again, like I mentioned, like basketball has made a big impact in both of our lives. Obviously for you, especially like giving that opportunity to travel and get those multiple perspectives, that's made an impact on you. And Bridging Impact's all about giving that impact back. So I'm curious, obviously, we're in the works of doing some things together, but just in general, how do you see yourself really giving back the game to what it gave you?
yeah, man, I have a lot that goes into my mind of just being a blessing to some youth. Excuse me. I think I just being able to be a vehicle and being able to provide uh, some youth athletes, college athletes, coaches. I mean, just a brain to be able to pick, right, and to hear my experiences and to being able to be a mentor, to be able to be a leader in certain aspects. I think that's the main. I think the main viewpoint that I want to move with is just being a soundboard for people to, hey, listen, this is the idea I have for what I want to do, and hey, let's do it. Like let's make that happen, right? And I think one thing that I want to develop is to be growing the sport, right, of basketball, and be able to travel with the game and teach life lessons and development and playing the sport. I still want to play a little bit too. So I think growing in that aspect of being able to see what that sport can do for you can open up doors through your education and through your leadership skills, connecting with people from all different backgrounds, and travel and see the world, go to different parts of the country that you've never seen before, and different parts of Europe, Asia, right? So there's different possibilities through that this game can do, and I kind of want to expose people to that. So
it's really cool, and just giving back what has been given to you, those exposure, that opportunity. And I'm curious if there's any like mentor or role model or coach that you want to model some of your kind of, philosophy or style after, or if you're kind of creating, kind of it entrepreneurial in terms of like embarking on your new kind of philosophy on leadership and coaching.
Yeah, I mean, I've been blessed growing up. I've had a couple great coaches that just provided time for me. I think that's showing that they care, and I think that's something. Like, I was with my AU club for 5 years, 6 years, right? And we weren't on no national circuit or anything like that, but that coach gave me the time because he cared and would put in that work with me. Right, I had the opportunity to go play with different club teams, which now, working in the basketball industry and knowing what I know now, maybe it would have provided me a better opportunity to go play with those teams for exposure, right? To go to be where the coaches were, right? For better opportunities in the game of basketball, right? But that's where my experiences now, with my connections through all different basketball mentors and individuals that I know in the industry, I can pass that knowledge on to other people, right? And share that vision with others. So I think that entrepreneurial mindset is kind of where I want to go, and to be able to explore something that's a little bit different. But I just want to do so much with basketball. I think that tailoring it to just one thing is not really what I do. But sometimes that's how you have to do it to be able to accomplish some things. But I think having that broad scope of some different avenues that you want to explore into it can be done, because I have a growth mindset. I don't have a limited mindset. So that's some stuff that I want to try and tackle.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, is like, having that growth mindset, like you said, like open to different opportunities that may come up out of the game of basketball. But I want to touch on a point that you kind of made, and something I've been thinking about and actually kind of rethinking about learning wise, is like, I think a lot of times we think, and this is probably putting on our coach perspective, is like we have to coach at a UCLA or a Kansas or in the NBA to make an impact. And that's not true. Like, coaching basketball is coaching basketball. So, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the UConn coach's name. Do you know the UConn coach's name who left? No, not women's, the men's coach.
The current one?
Not the current one. The one that won 3 national titles. I'm drawing a blank. Jim Calhoun. So where he's coaching now, he's coaching at a Division III now, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, he, I was reading about him, and he coaches his players just as hard. He's just as hard on the referees as he was in UConn. And it doesn't matter, because he's just coaching basketball, right? And it doesn't matter, that he's not on ESPN or any of that. And I think that is what really matters the most, is just like, basketball is basketball, whether it's at the highest level or, we're coaching at the youth level. And I think just reminding coaches that, like, what you're doing is important, or even parents that are listening, like, playing basketball is important. It doesn't matter how much clout or status that you're getting out of it. It's just like, it's just all about giving back to the game.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one thing I view is a lot of parents are relatively hard on trying to push their kid to the next level and all that stuff, because right now there's so many different opportunities for kids to explore into and grow. So I think that's something that is definitely has to be acknowledged. I mean, and kids have to be kids at the end of the day, right? But then you look at someone like Devin Booker, right, who said, I don't want to be a kid. I just want to go train every day and then go for the pros and then become a star. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's tough to take in. And with that, like, basketball, there's so many different avenues to play the game, to be taught the game now. And I think that's something that you have to take into perspective when you're trying to get into different things. Is you're like, hey, there's a lot going on.
Right.
So be aware of what's coming, but also go after what you want to. So I
think, and I think a big important point for coaches and parents especially is that it has to be the athlete's choice. Like that was Devin Booker's choice to do that, right? Like he wanted to do that. And then, but we also see, you know, coaches and parents putting so much pressure on athletes to that they have to do that. Like that is their avenue. And there's also, you know, some certain cases where, you know, like financially, right, it's a business move to do it, right? The kid may not love basketball, but basketball can get that athlete, that kid, a free education, right? So it's not always a black or white situation. Some situations, you know, kind of are, but from my perspective, is a lot of times it needs to be the athlete's choice, and the you know, the coach needs to be that guide or mentor to, you know, kind of help them where they want to be. If they just want to play high school basketball and that's it, that's fine. You know, that takes a certain level of coaching. But if they want to be pushed, they want to go play college ball, and you know, like that's what you need to know. So I've always tried to like kind of understand my players and what their goals are, you know, for the game of basketball, and just be real with them too, like what it really takes. You know, do you want to play college basketball? Like, well, our athleticism may only be D3, so like are you okay with that, you know?
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So with that, and as we kind of enter the like final, you know, kind of 2 minutes of our conversation of the fourth quarter, you know, I'm curious, you know, we started the podcast with this, but you know, you moved to Los Angeles about 6 months ago, and we haven't touched on it too much, but you know, you wanted to pursue acting, and obviously basketball is still an important part of your life. Can you share a little bit more about, you know, why you moved out to LA, and you came out here, you were sleeping on your buddy's couch, kind of living that you know, lack of a better term, American dream in terms of like coming to Hollywood and trying to make it?
Yeah, man. So it was a little nerve wracking, but I was living back in Hartford where I grew up, and I was trying to start a basketball organization with a colleague of mine that I met out there, helped him get some stuff off the ground there, and I just really there's something in me that just said, hey, like when I got back from Europe in 2020, I was like, if I'm gonna live in the U.S., I want to go either live in Florida or live in California, where somewhere's warm, right? And I
Yeah.
tried Florida, and it just wasn't for me, and I moved back to the East Coast, and then I had the opportunity to either go to Europe and try and pursue another master's degree, and then play for university and play for a club team, or come out to LA and live in Hollywood and try and pursue different opportunities here. I mean, I had a sports organization that does sports choreography for different movies. So they did like the Dark Knight, the football scene there. They do a bunch of different other choreographies for the movies. And I was like, and they reached out to me about different opportunities, and I was just like, all right, let me go give it a shot. I said, hey, I'm going out to California, and like if you have any opportunities out there, like let me know. And I was out.
Yeah.
And then been blessed to be able to be in a couple feature films. So Sweetwater's coming out in April. It's about the first African American to land a contract in the NBA. Played for the Harlem Globetrotters and New York Knicks, and it was a very moving piece. And the lead, Everett, is a great guy. Played in Australia, and he's a special guy. So I mean, he did a fantastic job on that piece, and I was very blessed to be able to join the court with him during that filming, and it was awesome. So I got to connect with some of the Harlem Globetrotters, and it was sweet, man. So I wouldn't change that for the world. So I mean, you don't realize what's coming ahead of you, right? So I think that's something that's special with this world, is like, hey, you keep going, right? You keep going, and some things can come your way. So you don't realize at that time, I didn't even know it was an NBA, like it was going to be picked up by the NBA, and like I had no idea, right? But I was just happy that my experiences with basketball put me in that situation to be able to be one of the actors in that film. So it was a blessing for sure.
I think that's a really cool story of just your story of how the game of basketball can like impact you and provide you so many opportunities where you have no idea where, where you really thought. I bet at the moment when you were, with those 40 kids in Thailand, you're like, there's no way I imagine myself being here, 6 years ago. And then obviously in Ireland for PE, and obviously, your playing days and having that opportunity to probably play and have, teammates that were from all across Europe, all across the world, and, just all these different experiences, and then be a part of a movie, that's really important, for the game of basketball, right? That opened doors for, basketball players, African-American basketball players, Black basketball players that, are predominantly, that's most of the NBA now. So just being a part of those stories and intertwine is just like really cool that, it's not always, a one track fits all, and so there's so many opportunities to make the most of life. And in our final kind of like segment, I would just like, what like final piece of advice would you give for the parents and coaches, or maybe even the athletes that are listening to this, that are just, wanting to continue to, expand on their life journey?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much you can give people. I think that's a tough little question, but at the same time, I fell in love with this at a young age, and I've been blessed with so many different opportunities from others. And I think when you have people that care for you and they're showing that they're providing great energy for you, and they're giving great opportunities towards you to explore the game, to learn from the sport, and it can open up different possibilities for you. I had the opportunity to pursue 2 different educational degrees, like live in a foreign country and meet people, travel the world, like go after what you want in this world. And I think basketball has provided me so many different opportunities that some of my friends were like, hey bro, like you're living the dream, bro. You're living the dream. But I mean, that's my dream. It might not be other people's stuff, right? So if you have to know what you want in this world, write those goals down, and then figure out which avenues you can explore into. And I think that's something that you can take in, and it might not be, you might want to go into fashion, or you might want to go into art, or you might want to go into cooking, right? Culinary school, right? And just utilizing sport as a way to teach life lessons. And I think from a young age, that's something that basketball has done for me. And I think from just having great friends, giving me something to look forward to after school from going. And I think it's just been a blessing for sure. And I think it can do so much for people to be around sport, and it's impacted my life because of the people I've connected with, and what I've learned through my physical development and being an athlete, and just taking me on to well past my playing career, like just going to the gym and just getting a workout, and it's good for your physical health, right? And your mental clarity, and your social and emotional well-being, right? Of just being around people and connecting with others. I think there's so much that you can take from just being involved in sport, and it can change lives, and it changed mine. So yeah. That's it, brother. That's all I got.
That's beautiful. That's a great way to mic drop and end this conversation. Thank you, Tinat, so much today for your time. Appreciate you, and look forward to when we get to do this in person.
Yeah, Jay, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bridging Impact Podcast. We'd love it if you would like, subscribe, leave a comment and a review on whatever platform you're on. It's the best way to help us grow. We appreciate you for doing that. We'll shout you out on social media. I'd also love if you connected with me on social media. Let me know your thoughts. And this is why I do it. I want to share knowledge and wisdom from experienced leaders to people like yourself and myself, so we can have this dialogue and move forward, make an impact on the world. So stay tuned, stay subscribed. Cheers.